I'd like to call the meeting of the Haywood County Board of Education to order for September. This time I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for our invocation, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Rogers, would you lead us in our invocation, please?
Let us pray. Most kind, gracious Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. We thank you, Lord, for this good start our school system has had. We thank you for the success our school system has had. And the awards now, Lord, of being 10% in the state of North Carolina. Thank you, Lord, for that. Thank you for that ability to teach children. Thank you for those teachers and those principals and administrators that we have in this system. And Lord, we also pray that you guide us and direct us as a board, that we make the best decisions, that we can have the best educational system in this state, and that we have the abilities to help all. Lord, we also pray that you help us and help these families that have suffered losses. Lord, we know we lost a young man in the Swanger family, and Lord, we pray others that have had losses and had things in these times of trouble and need, Lord, that you be with them, wrap your comforting arms around them. You guide us. You guide this school system, Lord, that we can have the best system. Keep us all safe. Keep our teachers safe. Keep our children safe and our families. And Lord, we pray that we will honor you and do the things that are upright and godly. Guide us and direct us, and we'll give you the praise and glory for it all. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Under announcements, I'd like to announce that our next regular board meeting will be held here at the Education Center October 10th at 7 p.m. And also, board members, I think there's a few of us going to the North Carolina School Board Association District 8 fall meeting, and I think we'll meet at the central office parking lot around 2:30. So those that are going, I think it's a couple, three of us. And any other announcements that we need to make, board members? I know school's started and off to a good start, and we got some great news. And not going to steal anybody's thunder, but just stay tuned. You're going to see a lot of great information that is actually a result of a lot of people's work. Parents, students, teachers, the community, administrators, principals, staff, everybody has had a part in this. And it's a huge celebration. We're very proud of our students and our accomplishments, but again, there's a lot of folks that's worked hard to make this happen, and so just stay with us this evening because we're going to get some good school performance data a little bit later in the session this afternoon. Under agenda adjustments, we do need to add an item under building and grounds. They met this afternoon. There's several things that need to be taken care of, so without objection, I'm going to add it right prior to the Finance Committee, if that's okay. Does anybody object to that addition to the agenda? So right before 19, Mr. Haywood, don't let me forget. I do that sometimes. And we'll add those items that need to be taken care of so we can work on our schools. Any other adjustments that we need to make? Okay. Next, we will recognize Mr. Jeff Haney. Are you going to introduce him, Dr. Garrett, or do we just need Mr. Haney to come up? Mr. Haney, you have the floor.
Board, it is an honor and a privilege to stand before you. I want to echo Chairman Francis. We're a very good school system, and part of the reason is because of decisions and the guidance that you give, because of the decisions and the guidance that our support people, our central office people, I see cafeteria ladies here. I see Shirley Presley, who drove a bus when I was at Pisgah. We've got really good people in place, so we should be good. We've got really good people. With really good people come really good students. I'd like to introduce to you Melody Hagan. Melody, come on up. Melody is a second-year Haywood Early College student. She has been very successful at the early college, and she turned in a blog, and Miss Two is her teacher. Miss Two teaches a English elective class, and she motivates the kids. I went by this morning, and she had them. I was afraid to go in there. I was afraid she was going to put me to work, so I waited and just kept right on going. But Melody introduced a blog to the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, mailed it in, and it was chosen, and it is on their website. So it is an honor. If you'll introduce your family, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me speak at this board meeting. This is my family. Over here. My dad, mom, my sisters.
She was very nervous about speaking. She said, "What did I say?" And I said, "Well, we're going to get up there and dance, and we're going to sing." I'm as nervous as she is, but she is an outstanding student. She pushes herself. She does well. I've got a school full of students like this, just as all of us do. So I just want to recognize Melody today for her accomplishment and what a great job she's done, and for Miss Two for pushing her students for excellence. Thank you.
I'd like to present you with this certificate of recognition. This certificate of recognition is awarded to Melanie Hagan in recognition of your Student Voices blog being selected by North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, awarded the 19th day of September 2016 by Haywood County Schools. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're very proud.
And if you haven't read Melanie's blog, you need to read it. It's awesome. It's very good. Mr. Chairman, board members, it's my pleasure to introduce a young lady to you. As you know, every year we do Kids in the Creek, and I hope you're familiar with Kids in the Creek. We've done this for 19 years now. I can't believe it. This was the 19th year. We just finished last week with over 600 8th grade students going through the 4 stations on water quality, and it was amazing. It had beautiful weather and everything went great. These are the people that support and help with this. All these different people contribute to that program. It's sponsored mainly by Haywood Waterways and Haywood County Schools, but all these different people help. National Park Service, Evergreen Packaging, all of them. So each year we have a t-shirt contest for the 8th grade students to go through the creek. And for this year, I'd like to recognize Molly Dorgan. Molly, if you'll come up. She drew the design as an 8th grader. She's now a 9th grader at Tuscola, but we wanted to recognize her with this certificate for her design.
Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah.
Molly, certificate of recognition. Certificate of recognition. This certificate of recognition is awarded to Molly Dorgan in recognition as winner of the 2016 Kids in the Creek T-shirt contest. Winner awarded the 19th day of September 2016 by Haywood County Schools. Congratulations. Good job.
And she has a t-shirt for each of you. So, Mr. Francis, what size would you like?
Small, extra small.
Well, I tell you what.
I'll take whatever they are, large.
Large. Let's see. I know. Well, there's one in there. I'll find it. We'll come
That's
back to
fine,
you.
we'll do
It's
that.
in there.
That's great.
I'm not. And I'll let Mom. Miss Chandler, what size would you like?
Well, can I get one for Katie?
Give her a big one for Katie.
Because the one, like
Yeah.
extra large.
Give that for Katie.
He's worn the one from year before last for 10 years.
Is that men's size or ladies' sizes?
It's men's size.
Probably a large.
That's 2X.
2X. That's a big one. Two probably, yeah. Monica's a great picture, thank you.
Another large,
Stay from large.
Mr. Francis.
Up the door.
Excel. I'll take it.
He doesn't have that.
And is it for the link?
And another Excel. Medium, small.
Medium for Pee-wee.
Large. Thank you for all the compliment there.
Should I ask for the small one?
I think we only have one large left.
So I give it to somebody that needs, I'll take a medium.
Extra large or medium?
Extra large. I'm going to suck into a medium.
I like the picture. Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations.
Great design.
Mm-hmm. That's cute.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have Ms. Allison Francis.
Chairman Francis, members of the board, I wanted to take a minute to recognize 11 of our 15 cafeteria managers that took time out of their busy summer to spend 3 days attending the North Carolina K-12 Culinary Institute. This institute was designed to enhance nutrition offerings and was funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Professional Standards Training Grant received by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction School Nutrition Section. The K-12 Culinary Institute was a unique opportunity for our school nutrition professionals to enhance their culinary skills and glean tools and information critical to their important roles in providing quality school nutrition meals. The Institute was developed by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and Chef Cindy Story's K-12 culinary team in order to meet several core objectives: to improve student health, well-being, and academic success through nutritious, appealing meals at school, increase consumption of fruits, vegetables, and whole grain-rich foods, and to provide continuing education opportunities for school nutrition professionals. Some of the topics covered were knife skills, preparing foods for just-in-time service, work simplification and scheduling, effective use of equipment, and quality food preparation and service for a variety of meats, grains, fruits, and vegetables. I've got a couple pictures I'd like to show you of their experience. It was a 3-day program, and they had hands-on training in the kitchen. This was held at Cherokee Central School. And so they were in a huge kitchen facility. There were 25 people that attended from across western North Carolina, and again, 11 of them were from Haywood County.
Yeah.
They learned knife skills. They got to make different recipes,
Look at that.
make things look nice and pretty and colorful, learned some garnishing skills, had classroom time where they learned about different skills they could use there with their employees. There's Sandra. I think that was that kale, Sandra? That was kale. They learned how to make kale taste good. One of the themes that they used during this program was, if you liked something, you were supposed to say kale, yeah. So it was all about saying kale, yeah. But they made different kinds of wraps and just exciting recipes, trying to get the kids excited about school lunch. I think they really enjoyed it. The girls that went had a great time. In addition to the 3 days there, they got to come home with about $500 worth of small equipment to use in their school cafeterias, and they were also given a chef's hat and a nice apron to wear. This is the picture they had a little graduation ceremony for them, and they got to have their chef's hats and aprons.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the entire group.
That's great.
The North Carolina Culinary Institute graduates become chef ambassadors prepared to teach other school nutrition professionals at the school level. They also got to, again, bring home a few $100s worth of small equipment and tools for their kitchen. I would like to recognize our graduates of the Culinary Institute.
North Carolina Smarter Meals Successful Students K through 9 Culinary Institute Certificate of Participation, Sandra Christopher. Key area operations, key topic food production, learning code culinary skills 2130, professional development, and continuing education 22 hours.
Yay.
Congratulations. Our next participation is Barbara Fowler. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you. Mickey Limbo.
Can't believe nobody has their hat on.
Where's his hat?
Vicky Messer.
There they go.
Ah, they look good.
Vicky.
Sandra Myers.
Hell yeah, Sandy's got it.
Shirley Presley.
And we had more fun than I could ever let you know.
What happens there stays there.
And Sharon Stevens.
Yes. That phone.
I think you did.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you coming tonight.
Pictures.
Hey, can we think I'll take a picture?
Yeah.
Got a everybody up here with their flag.
They got a picture.
The sheriff.
You can take a camera. I mean, a phone. They have it.
I'd like to say thank you all for your dedication in attending that, and I'd also like to lodge a formal complaint. My grandson is exposed to all kinds of wonderful food at my house, but he won't eat any of it. But at Junaluska Elementary, I understand that he's eating everything that he's given. So my wife Vicki is not very happy. Y'all doing a great job. Thank you.
We did have 3 folks that were unable to attend tonight. Jennifer Rogers from Junaluska Elementary, Ginger Moore from Jonathan Valley, and Robin Smith from Haywood Early College, and Sherry Kilby from Bethel Elementary.
Yeah, come up. Get your picture. Tall people in the back. Yeah, I'll get up there with you.
Smiles, everyone. Hell yeah. They said Next, we'll have Dr. Nolte's great news.
This is a special night, a night we get to talk about academic performance. We benefited by the board meeting being delayed 1 week. That allowed us to get some of these drill down results to you this month rather than October. It usually takes us till the October meeting. So before we really start looking at this information, I just again wanted to echo the number of people who contributed to our outstanding academic performance across the district. When Dr. Garrett became the superintendent, she, about 3 months later, recommended me to you and hired me. And one of our very earliest conversations was we just didn't want to be average anymore. We had floated, and I've said that before at school board meetings, you all have heard me talk about that. We had floated a little above the state average for a couple decades, and we had good scores, better than most. But we had a conversation, and we began to go to other districts and revisit our research. And Sandy Caldwell, our former elementary supervisor, brought us the Good to Great business research of Jim Collins, and we changed our mission. And over time, just a lot of people from the classroom to parents and grandparents reading at home, a lot of people have contributed to a lot of improvement in academic performance that was already good. So I just felt like I wanted to say that and share that. It's a long history. And 12 years ago, we ranked right at 40th. And if you'll open up that first slide, this first slide is old news, but I wanted to at least show you the first page. This is the district ranking based upon the performance composite, and I'll show you more test scores here in just a minute, but these are all of the tests that the state uses to give us our letter grades for all the schools in public schools and districts in North Carolina. And as you can see, we don't ever put these lists together to point out people who haven't done as well as we have, but we're really proud to have moved from 15th, where we hovered for a couple of years, to 11th, and that does put us in the top 10%. So you can scroll down through there later if you'd like to do some curiosity looking, but for our purposes, we just do this to see where we fall, and then when we're working on something, if we know that our friends in Polk County or Henderson County are doing that well, that's a good school district to go visit. And they both have helped us with things as we have in turn. Okay, would you mind to go to the next one? There are a number of high schools in North Carolina, and they're all really different. There are actually medical high schools. There are early colleges. There are middle colleges. There are alternative high schools. What we have done is sort out the traditional high schools. And I don't have my glasses on. I'm not sure I could see that number with the glasses. What is that up there by 912? 3? What's that number? 356. Thank you, Dr. Garrett. My glasses are for up close reading. But there are 356 traditional public high schools that have grades 9 through 12. And we have ranked them based upon their performance composite. So there are 356 high schools in the state like us. If you'll scroll down just a little bit, Brooke, and see that those green cells there, they don't put the school size in the big spreadsheets from the state. So what we did is we sorted according to schools that have about the same number of students testing for the ACT as we do. And we test a little more than 200, and so we sorted from 150 to 250. So most of that comparison is schools that are a little smaller than our traditional high schools, but we sorted from 150 to 250, and you'll see our schools as we roll down. There are 117 schools in the state that are traditional 9-12 schools that look like Pisgah and Tuscola in terms of being comprehensive. So scroll down just a little further, and you can see those. And there, sorry for the big cell there, there's Pisgah High School. They ranked out of all the schools, the 300 schools, they ranked in the top 15%, and then they were 15th. I'm gonna have to get my computer. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't think my glasses will help. There you go. My glasses will not see that far. Okay, friends at home, sorry. I've been working a long time. There we go. Okay. So.
Very good.
How smooth is this? Okay. Now, there we go. So, we look at that. 356 traditional non-special schools, and if we scroll down to Pisgah, which you can see there, they were in the top 25% overall. That's every size school, large to small, and then they were 15th of the 117 schools of that size.
Microphone. There you go. Thank you.
I usually do a lot better than this. Thank you. Top 25% overall, 15th among like-sized schools. And then if we'll scroll down just a little bit more to the next page, we have Tuscola High School in the top 36% overall, and 27th of 117 like-sized schools. And then just for effect, we don't want to look at the other ones, but just so you can see, if we'll scroll through the rest of those, and you can see really, you can really get a feel for the schools that we outperformed. And all the green ones are just like us. So that's pretty, you get a better effect when you really see them all. And again, we don't want to necessarily look at all the names, but there you go. Okay. Next file. I have my glasses and the microphone, hopefully in the right place. There's really only one way to sort middle schools because there are not a lot of special middle schools across the state. So we just did a 6/8 sort of all the middle schools in the state. There were 417 true middle schools, 6/8 middle schools in the state. And Brooke, if you could scroll down to the second page, and you can see that Bethel Elementary School was in the top 11% of all of the middle schools in the state. And then we'll scroll to the next page, and we have Canton Middle in the top 25% of the over 400 middle schools in the state. And then on the very next page, the top of the next page, Waynesville Middle School in the top 31%, well in the top third of all the middle schools in the state. And Brooke, if you would, again, just scroll through those because, again, we're not trying to look at any of those names, but to just show you how well our three middle schools do when compared to the rest of the middle schools in the state. And again, that is a lot of work by a lot of people. And then we'll go to the next file. There are 846 K-5 or pre-K-5 Title I schools in North Carolina. Riverbend is first, second year in a row. And then just a little further down on the first page, you can see that Bethel and Junaluska are both in the top 3% out of the well over 800 like schools in the state. And then Jonathan Valley's on the top of page 2 at the top 6%. And then you have Clyde and North Canton coming in at the top 8% and top 9%. We're not out of the top 10% yet with our elementary schools out of 800, which is pretty cool. Scroll down to Meadowbrook, top 18%. And then Hazelwood clearly in the top 25%. And then if you'll scroll through there, again, not to look at any of the other school names, but just to see how well our schools have done academically compared to like schools in the state.
It's a lot of schools.
Yes. If you could go to the next slide. This next slide is, this is the first time we have put this information together like this, and we really put this information together for you and for the public. We look at this data every year with individual schools and in our office, but this is the first time we've put this piece of data together, and all we did was really sort one of the great big spreadsheets that come from the Department of Public Instruction. Across the top row are the 23 indicators that the state uses to give our schools letter grades. And then our performance number is in the yellow highlighted line, and then the state's performance average is in the blue highlighted line. And then, like we have done for several years with district performance composite, all students and all tests, we literally went through and ranked every indicator across 115 school districts. So on the first one, you'll see ACT, we ranked 22nd. That's pretty good. We have been higher, so that's one we'll take a look at, but that puts us in the top 19% of the districts on the ACT. Work Keys, which you know is the vocational test that they take at the end of their 4 courses, concentration courses in career technical education or vocational education. 14th out of 115 districts of the top 12%. Math Rigor is a measure of students passing Math 3, which is pretty tough. We're over 95% and tied for first. Now, in all fairness, there are probably half the districts in the state or more meet that same measure. Graduation rate, our whole district is a little below the state average, but I put Tuscola's and Pisgah's down there to show you that our big comprehensive schools are above the state average. And where we have some work to do is with our students who go from 8th grade straight into college, which can be tough at the early college, and certainly our students who have struggled and might not otherwise graduate. They're at Central Haywood, and we'll show you their individual numbers in just a second. The performance composite for career and college readiness, that number's only been around about 3 years. Those are students who only make the highest scores on the test. They didn't just pass, they made a 4 or a 5. And on that measure, we tied for 12th out of 115 districts, top 10%. Performance composite, that's the one we've been talking about and has been covered already by the media, and some of us have on the stickers that indicate that. Math 1, 28th or top 24%. Biology, 35th out of 115, top 30%. English 2, ranked 20th out of 115 districts, top 17%. Math 3, we ranked 2nd out of 115 districts, top 2%. Math 4, we ranked 6th, top 5%. Math 5, we ranked 7th out of 115 districts, top 6%. Math 6, we ranked 17th, or the top 15%. Math 8, we ranked 15th out of 115 districts, top 13%. Math 8, 25th, top 25%. Third grade reading, 17th out of 115 districts, top 15%. Fourth grade reading, 11th out of 115 districts, top 10%. Fifth grade reading, 7th out of 115 districts, 6%. Sixth grade reading, 27th, top 23%. Seventh grade reading, 20th out of 115 districts, 17%. Eighth grade reading, 9th out of 115 districts, top 8%. Fifth grade science, 17th, in the top 15%, and eighth grade science, 30th or the top 26%. Now the color coding, the dark green, there are 9 indicators of the 23 in which we're in the top 10% out of all the districts. The light green, there are 8 additional indicators, and we're in the top 20% on those. So on 17 of the 23 indicators, we're in the top 10 or top 20%. The ones that are not color-coded, we feel are pretty good scores, but ones we certainly want to work on. And then we'll go back and look at the graduation rate at our alternative school and our early college. So that's cause for celebration. I can assure you there are lots of districts that would like to have that kind of performance. We're, for the 3rd year in a row, they've only given the letter grades to schools for 3 years. But for the 3rd year in a row, we're among 12 districts to have only A, B, and C schools. All the other districts have D's or F's or all C's or C's and B's. The first year there were 8, and then last year I think there were 12, and this year there were 12. So we're real proud of that. That indicates really good academic performance to great academic performance in the district, no low performing schools. So last slide, you've seen this one before. So that's the roses that we're smelling for the most part. So now what do we work on? And as you know, we do like to celebrate and be proud of our accomplishments, but we certainly recognize that there are some indicators that in which we could be better. So this is what Todd Trantham named for us about 3 years ago, our gap analysis. And if it's in green, then we're in good standing above most of the districts in the state. If it is not colored in, if there is no color, if it's a white cell, then that's a place where we can do some work. So we'll be paying special attention to these areas. Our schools have already looked at this data as it began to trickle out before it became official from the state earlier this month, and they've included a lot of this in their school improvement plans. So you can see there are a few white cells. Central Haywood certainly is an alternative school, and we recognize that they're not going to have a lot of green cells. I would point out that even though their graduation rate is not as high as the state, they're graduating over 75% of the students who might otherwise drop out. So that's a pretty good thumbnail print. We have lots of meetings and discussions where we talk about nitty-gritty things. Did this class go up? Did this class go down? Is there some instructional methodology that we need to add to the information we provide to teachers on our workday and other things? But we're real proud of our performance, and at the same time making sure that we're not too full of ourselves, and we're looking for the next thing that we can work on so our students can do even better. Yes, it was pretty good. I don't, Dr. Garrett, maybe she won't fire me, but literally when the scores came out, she started calling me. I was in a meeting, and then I ran back and we got the calculators going. And by the end of the day, we were just almost in tears. There might have been a tear on my part anyway. But it was really, really good to see all the hard work of teachers and students and administrators and parents and bus drivers who get them there on time and grandparents who read to them at night. And it was just a very good affirmation of many people doing good things.
Are there any questions for Dr. Bill?
Could you go back to the very first slide showing county ranks?
Brooke can. Those are districts, so they're 100 districts, but 100 counties, but 115 districts.
You know, the thing that stood out to me, and this was just the intense for our community. If you look at the top, 10% counties, Chapel, if you look at their demographics, just for knowledge, that's Orange County. Okay, that's where a major university is. We have a high emphasis on education. Polk, Union, Henderson, and you get down to Talbot, I'm assuming that's Appalachian.
It is.
Appalachian. Lake County, NC State, Meredith, all those colleges. So if you look at the demographics of those 10 counties in front of us, I think it says a lot about communities focus on education. I just think that's outstanding.
And you all know I can be long-winded, but since Pat asked that slide to come back up, I wanted to brag on our region of the state. This is Southern Appalachia. We're not known as having a ton of money. We do have some industry and some big corporate areas, but there are 8 educational regions in the state. So you would think in the top 8, you would find 1 school district from each region. Well, if you look at the top 8, there are 2 from our region, and instead of 1. And then if you look at the top 16, each region should have 2, mathematically speaking, 2 school districts, and we have 5. So we do a good job, but we have some friends very close to us up there, Polk, Henderson, Asheville, Transylvania, who also really get after it. And we're proud of them too. They work really hard to help their children prepare for work and college.
Any other questions?
That deserves another round of applause.
We thank you, and we thank you for your part too.
Dr. Billy, the numbers may be small up there on the screen, but they're big. That's big news. And we're so proud of, again, like I said earlier, everybody had a part in that. And thank you again for sharing that information, and wonderful job, wonderful job. Ms. King, did anyone sign up to speak before the board? Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda, board members, you've had an opportunity to look at the closed and regular session minutes. At this time, we entertain a motion they be approved.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that be approved as presented with one correction to the
Correct. All right, do I hear a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Francis. We have a motion from Mr. Jimmy Rogers, second of Mr. Jim Francis, to approve the minutes as presented and corrected earlier. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, we have Dr. Garrett's going to present the calendar waiver for Miss Jenny.
Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, as you can see, we're asking for a waiver as per General Statute 115C-84.2.
Okay, at this time we entertain a motion that we approve the calendar waiver as presented.
I move we approve it.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Milner. I hear second, Mr. Leatherwood. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to come back up to Dr. Nolte.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Garrett and staff, the next item, I think we told you about this a month ago, is the approval of school improvement plans for each school. We had our data, preliminary data, in July, and we build a new plan every 2 years. You approved our district plan, I think, in March or April, and the schools have submitted their plans in a timely manner, and they're as objective and measurable as they have ever been. I thought they looked really good. Heather Hollins Worth called me today, and she had one typo that we'll correct if you, with your permission, we'll correct that typo. But we would like for you, the plans are there to approve those plans if you so choose.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Well, wait a minute, we need to get a motion on the floor. I have a motion on the floor to approve the school improvement plans as presented. Mr. Bobby Rogers made the motion. I hear a second.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Shandable. Okay, any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? Now we can discuss if there's any questions for Dr. Nolte. There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I think you're next also on the agenda.
Yes. Also for your consideration, our mental health provider, we contract that initial service. So we have consistency among outside therapists for the most part in our schools. And they merged with another company, so we need to look at the contract every year and redo it, but it was especially important this year since Meridian had merged with who we formerly contracted with, which was Haywood Psychological Services. And Pat has looked at this contract and didn't give us any feedback to change it.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the mental health service agreement as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Levin's made the motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Jimmy Rogers, I believe. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? Mr. Smathers, you say you have looked at the, okay. Very good.
And then the next, oh, I'm sorry.
We got to vote.
Oh.
Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I used to do much better than this. I might need some more caffeine or something.
There's a lot of numbers going on in your head right
Yes, there are. Okay. And the last item for your consideration is the adult high school agreement with Haywood Community College. We have had this agreement for many years, and a number of our students who do not graduate through one of our traditional schools or through the early college or Central Haywood or even the Haywood Learning Center can benefit by attending and graduating through the adult high school. The state legislature allows us now to count those graduates as graduates. For years, they were counted as dropouts. And so we met several times, Dr. Parker, Dr. Garrett, Mr. Ledford, myself, and other people at the college to revise our agreement to make sure it met the changes in the law. And Mr. Smathers also looked at this agreement a little earlier.
Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion that we approve the agreement between us and the Haywood Community College. Mr. Henson's made the motion, seconded by
I'll second it.
Mr. Jimmy Rogers. I believe he beat you. Seconded by Mr. Jimmy Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, we have Dr. Ann Garrett.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as per our last meeting, I was to bring names to you for the supplement committee. At this time, I'd like to present you with the following. Representing the Board of Education, Mr. Jim Francis. Our county commissioner, I think we will have a date, or excuse me, a person at a later date for that.
That's correct. I've talked with the chairman, and that will be forthcoming.
Good. Business and Industry, Jake Robinson from Champion Credit Union. Our Principal of the Year, Travis Collins from Tuscola. Our Teacher of the Year, Nanette Renegar from Clyde Elementary. Our Waynesville Middle School Teacher of the Year, Noel Castater. Pisgah High School's Teacher of the Year, Harold Shepard. Our Central Office person will be Jill Barker. Our PAPA representative, which is Principals Assistant Principals Association, will be Sean Paris. And then our Assistant Principal, which is also half of a teaching position, will be Jill Mann. And then Jason Hines and myself will be the co-chairs. Questions or concerns?
One thing I'd like to add is there will be support folks that will be feeding information into that committee. Is that correct?
For example, I know we'll be using Ms. Gardner, as a resource person and others as needed.
And I know that whenever I talked to the chairman, Swanger, he also suggested we have Ira Dove in helping in the same type of advisory role in that.
Okay.
and perhaps other community leaders
Sure.
that might could
And
feedback to that.
these meetings will be open to the public as well.
Absolutely. We need a motion to approve that at this time. We need one, like to make a motion to approve the
So
committee
moved.
as presented. Ms. Shanville's made the
I
motion.
second.
Second by Ms. Milner. Any questions or discussion before we vote? Does everybody like the committee's selection?
Yes. Done good.
Okay. Very good. There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And Mr. Chairman and members of the board, for your information, I've placed a ADM, or average daily membership, day 1, 5, and 10, and then comparing it from last year to this year so you can see where we are on the numbers.
Okay. All right, now we got the Mr. Mark Shepherd, the policy man extraordinaire.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Good evening.
So first off tonight for me, after discussing at a work session and at the last board meeting, I guess it's time now for us to give y'all an opportunity to vote whether to allow our sixth graders to participate in sports. And this would be in consideration of all sports other than football. So I guess we.
I would like to make a motion that we allow the sixth graders to participate in the sports, starting with the fall sports, which is not football, but which is basketball,
That's
wrestling.
Winter sports.
Winter, yeah, winter sports, yeah, not fall, yeah. We've already gone through fall, yeah, it's winter, sorry. Sorry, I got,
You're behind the scenes.
yeah, I was a little behind, wasn't I? I'm like Dr. Bill here.
But you're eager to get this done.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So, starting with the winter sports.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we hear a second?
Second.
I don't hear a second, so we're not gonna vote. Just kidding. Mr. Leatherwood has seconded the motion. Mr. Kirkpatrick has made the motion to allow sixth graders to participate in our sports program, starting with the winter sports of 2016.
Correct.
17 school year.
Right.
Okay, and we have a second. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
Well, there's one thing I'd like to say. I thought all along that sixth graders ought to participate. I mean, if they're good enough to go to middle school, but they exclude football. But I have saw in the past, and I can take my son for example, he was almost too big to play youth ball, and he could compete at middle school level, no doubt because of his weight. And I'm sure these kids that could participate in football, but it'd just be maybe one or two, it wouldn't be 2 dozen. Just because they're too big to play youth ball. And I'd like to see the High School Athletic Association go back and look at this again, you know, once it's given a year or so, they need to go back and look at it, because they might be a occasion where a kid couldn't play nothing but middle school.
Yeah.
Have they talked about that, Mark? Have they talked about redoing the?
They're not, that's too late.
Now, this was a pretty big move right here, but like Walter said, we come back after a year, that it's been successful, and, you know, if it was done, like you mentioned, on not just a everybody basis, on a case-by-case basis where a certain weight limit may be reached or whatever. I'm sure you're not the only one that's brought this up around the state.
You know, initially I really had reservations about it, but after listening to a lot of parents talk and ask the question of coaches too, there's a lot of support out there for it. So I think
A lot of these
it
kids
may
are
be time for
competing
that to
anyway.
happen.
They're playing on travel teams and stuff, so they are competing
Sure.
somewhere.
They're competing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just needs to be noted, because the Blue Ridge Association, what their vote was when they met, I think that needs to be.
Okay, so the Blue Ridge Conference, which is the conference that our middle schools compete in, did allow this. So it's optional. Your LEA can choose, just like the state had left it. You know, it's optional for each LEA to choose whether they'll participate, sixth graders in sports. And that's the same way the Blue Ridge Conference left it.
Anybody else want to talk?
I would like to add, I'd like to encourage Mr. Shepherd to take the lead in the Blue Ridge Conference to push for JV sports to allow for more participation by sixth grade students.
I will do that.
If this passes, since we've got a motion and a second, now I know for the fall, there's then the concussion training and all that. I would assume that that's, if this passes.
They will have to have that. Yes.
They're going to need, the sixth graders are going to try to out. We have got to, they've got to have that.
Right.
Okay.
Also, insurance also?
Insurance.
Yeah, we'll have to go back
Go back and get that?
And get our estimated numbers that our ADs feel like will participate. We'll send that into our insurance company, and they said we'd receive a bill on that at the same rate we had on the other students that we put in.
Yes. Any other questions, comments before we vote? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Sixth graders, look out, here you come.
Here they come. Okay, so next up for me, the first group of policies you have there are for first reading. And I thought some of you may have questions about the 6125 that you just passed last month. Already back. And it shows that not necessarily that we got it wrong, it's just that we keep striving to get these policies right and tweaked up as much as we can. Basically, the change in that policy, if you look at the top of page 3, you can scroll down to it on your Moodle page there. There was a change that was even suggested by the school nurse group that allowed us to not have to have the over-the-counter medications labeled by a pharmacist like a prescription drug. We felt like that was overkill. We've already got this medication approved by a medical doctor on our sheet for that, and we've got stipulations in there that these meds come in their original packaging with instructions, a sheet the parent has to fill out telling the school how much, when, of what to give their kids. So everybody involved felt like going through the doctor and the pharmacist was a bit overkill and a little bit unuser-friendly to our parents, and we feel good about taking that out.
On this particular policy, did Jimmy on the policy committee and Mr. Shepherd and Dr. Garrett, is there an urgency to suspend the rules to go to that point with this one to get it going, to relieve some of the pressure on it, or?
No, make it
Effective.
30 days.
Make it,
Table it for 30
make it
days.
effective right now.
Yeah, but you can do the way for it.
We'd have to go through the process, but that,
Just got to suspend the rules.
Yes,
It's
sir.
like getting this policy.
well, I think that we had a lot of concern from parents, and if we want to address this in a timely manner, 30 days, I don't think anybody's gonna be opposed to this type of thing.
Yeah, we've passed it, so therefore it'd have to be as it is written now.
As of now.
And if we go ahead and waive the suspension 30-day rule.
Then you would prolong it 30 additional days.
Yeah, if we waive it right now, we can vote on it tonight.
Tonight and put it in place.
I would definitely not oppose us doing that.
Make a motion to suspend the rules
Yeah,
We
to
can't do
address
that.
item 6125.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Rogers made the motion to suspend the rules for this particular policy, policy 6125, and then we have a second, Mr. Francis. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? Now, what we're voting for is to suspend our own rules so we can vote on the policy as presented, okay? Just so we're clear. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none?
Well, one thing, Mr. Chairman, yeah, like you said, this has been discussed, and these are the changes that were to make it more friendly for the parents and the citizens out there, to make this more friendly for them instead of making such a burden upon them. And this was, a lot of this was was per request that we've heard from parents and the community. So it would be beneficial.
Okay. It's not unheard of to do this, okay? Any more questions or discussion? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now I need a motion to approve policy number 6125 as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rogers made the motion. To hear second.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Shandoval. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Shepherd, that's the policy.
Well, I have one question about, in the first reading, the 9120, let's see, 9120, 6420. Where did the 90, I know we've, the last one, just like in the second reading, the 9030 construction that is up for second reading, where has the 90,000 come from? Where our, I mean, is that stuck in there from the state? Because we was sitting at 30,000, now we're jumping from 30,000
To 90,000.
to 90,000 without no oversight. And we had it at 30. I mean,
I don't know if there's-
what's a policy committee thinking behind? Is anybody?
Well, this was sent to us by the State School Board Association as a reaction to legislation that was passed. And it was mandated that by October this be in place, at least the 9030. You know, the original one that's over there for approval on second read policies. And these all, the 6140, I believe it is, you're talking about right now?
Yeah, let's say there
Or the
was
6420, the
6420,
9120.
which is where the 90,000 actually is where pretty much it's.
All three of those are being made to line up with that 9030. There must have been some cheating going on somewhere in the state where people were using change orders to get around the stipulations of how big a policy, how big a contract could be let that had to be approved by a board. And apparently people, and I'm reading this into it, but apparently people were letting smaller contracts and then coming back with bigger change orders. And it was like, you must have this in place by October.
I think our policy still was below the 30 state. I mean, I can't remember exactly what the old policy was, but it wasn't at 90,000 even for the bid that you had to get more than just one bid. You couldn't have.
That was a formal bid above that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have. So, I mean, I'm still concerned about the 90,000.
It's too much.
Yeah, I'm thinking 90,000 is still too much, but.
It still has to be reported to the board each month.
Yeah, but being reported, and if we're giving somebody the authority to say, okay, a change order of $89,000 you can approve, that's a
lot of money, but that money also has to already be accounted for in the project. It can't be new monies.
Yeah.
It has to be money that is still in the budgeted and pre-approved project.
Yeah, so long as the funding for the change order is available within the established project budget.
Yeah, but the 90,000 still is taken in. Mr. Joe over there does not have to get a bid for anything under 90,000. It has to be over 90,000 to take 3 bids. If I'm not.
Is that true?
If I'm not way off here, Joe can call up somebody and say, here's a job, and they bid $89,000. He don't have to take 3. He don't have to take 3 bids. If I'm reading it correct.
So would you like for me to research and see if we can?
I would like for you to research it, but the thing of it is, if you've got to research it, then the 9030 is going to be hard to pass tonight also. And you're saying it needs to be in place by October?
And that's legislation.
So 9030 is actually legislated to us.
That it has to be in place.
Our policy needs to be in line with 9030.
That's why they rushed to get 9030 out last month, so they could get it, where it could have first and second reads. And then they came along and, you know,
That caused effect to change
Right.
the rest of it, just
Right.
a chain effect to make the others have to change now to be in compliance with that one.
Well, how many times has, I guess the question is how many times have we, the board, not looked at?
Have not what?
When has something happened that we haven't looked at?
Say
Well,
that
it's
again.
it's not the looking at, but it's not the looking at, even if we look at it.
Well, I mean, even approved, I mean, I don't know of anything that I can recall.
Well, and I'm not saying that this administration would sit here and say, okay, we've got a $50,000 job over here, and the administration sits there and says, okay, here, just get one bid, let's get it done. I'm not saying that that will happen, but is this administration gonna be here forever? Is this board gonna be here forever? I'm just saying that we might need to research the 90,000 a little bit more. But that's just me.
Okay. Well,
I think that anything at 30 and above, they do still have to do informal bids.
Yeah.
I think we've got 90/20 pulled up, but Mr. Kirkpatrick, you're really talking about 64/20, right? Is that where your concern is 64?
Yeah, cause 60.
Yeah, we've got the wrong policy.
Well, the 64/20, you can have a change order up to 90,000 that don't have to come through by the board.
Right, and, I'm thinking that that requires an informal bidding process. Part of that, I may be wrong, but I think some of that was for technology purchases. It wasn't necessarily for contracts, it was because with technology, you can get to 30,000 very quickly. You can have, 30 computers and be over that threshold. I think is where some of that was.
Yeah, there's-
90,000 threshold, but I may be mistaken, but I thought we still have to do an informal bid process at the 30,000 mark.
But between 30 and 500,000, that's what this is on 90/30. That's the one with those.
Well, like I said, I've been reading these and I just need to, I mean, if it's still up to the 30, I mean, the informal, but how I was reading it, it looked like the informal bid could be 90,000 below. You could just take one bid and it would be done.
There's a couple ways you can address this. One is you direct the superintendent, direct the maintenance supervisor that prior to doing any bid, that he requests two bids informally from any party. I mean, yeah, then this is the bare minimum, so you could do that. So direct him to do that, just to ask for a couple of bids, leave it up to his discretion, but just report to, let him go ahead and award it. So he wants you to shop around a little bit, and then he can go ahead and award it as long as it's reported to you. I mean, I think that's the issue, you don't want to spend more money, but as long as there's some type of relationship where he can shop around a little bit, make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I've already voiced my concern. I mean, and I'm not saying this administration would ever do anything, but we just don't know what's gonna happen down the road. I mean, and how the financial situation is with everything. You don't need someone that has $100,000, a $90,000 check that they can write out
Well,
without.
one thing you do address is that last paragraph. At least one of the superintendents should report to the board all contracts and contract amendments approved by the superintendent under this policy that exceed. Y'all have to talk about that in my heads.
You can insert your.
I was just getting ready to ask that.
30.
If we need to insert a dollar amount.
Yeah, the dollar amount there will be 10,000.
Yeah, and the finance director just said, again, this is not just construction, this could be any, all contracts.
This one in 6420 is
Well-
mostly not construction.
And that's the other thing, the way that I read it, it's not just construction. When you're giving 90,000, you're giving, and I talked to Dr. Ann about this just a little, and I had some concerns, and I talked to the chairman also. The thing of it is, this is not just affecting construction, this is affecting child nutrition, any kind of bid is what it's affecting. And we've been there. They've been a couple of board members on this board that we've been to those situations where maybe something got by that wasn't supposed to. Many.
Mr. Kirkpatrick, on the ones that are going to be tabled tonight, in the interest of time, why don't we have that as one of our key parts of our work session, so we can better understand what we were discussing and voting on, because the more we know about it, the better I'll feel about it being passed or not passed. And we can also allow for some public input at the same time and give our staff enough time to really bore down into what's in this policy to make sure that, I'm sure the folks on the policy committee understand it perfectly clear, but we weren't there for the whole process, and so we want to know what the discussions were. And just, Mark, if you would, just get us a detailed information on that. And it sounds to me like a 90-30 that we're talking about passing tonight. We need to probably go forward with it.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm understanding it.
So we can go forward with 90-30 and then just take a look at it. If we have to go back, and we can come back next month and change it if we can legally do that.
64-20.
And so that, at this time, what I would suggest we do is we go ahead and do a motion. Well, we don't even need a motion. I want to say 63-21, 64-20, 91-20, and 91-30 will be tabled for public input until the next board meeting.
Right.
So there's no action taken on those tonight. Okay?
Yeah, well,
Then I've asked the administration to look at it and come back to us with some detailed information on it at our work session, which will be the Thursday before the regular board meeting, which should give us time. If the information becomes available before then, just disseminate it back out to the board, and that way we can have information to start studying, so we will not have a grasp of what we're talking about.
And I think that may be more than anything. I just need to know, I mean, if it's said in there and it's still that 32 bids, whatever, that's fine. But the way I was reading it, I didn't read it like that. And I'm not a lawyer like Mr. Smathers, so I can't read between the lines. I like stuff black and white.
Okay, so we tabled those 4 policies till the next regular board meeting. And then on the second readings, on the, I guess the concern was 90-30, but it sounds to me like that it's a state.
Yeah, it's a state, but the number's not the state. I don't think a number is a state, and
Well,
we
let's
can
look
always.
at that. Let's go ahead and take action tonight on those policies. And then if we need to amend that to where the board feels more comfortable with it, if we can legally do that, then let's do that.
Right.
And I would ask our administration to kind of follow what we've been doing in the past as far as the checkbook. So you want to just do the, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Rogers. I know what you want to do.
Well, yeah, at this time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve all the second reading policies at this point in time.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to approve the second reading policies as presented. Now, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Miller. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
The only thing I say is a 90-30, which we will revisit and look at.
Okay.
I know I have Miss Milner. I was just making sure that
the record shows
the record will show it.
Mr. Kirkpatrick has some concerns about 90-30. Okay, it's duly noted. Any other questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
you,
you,
Mr. Shepherd.
So.
Okay, so for the work session next time, this will be definitely our topic, right? Or at least one of our topics. Okay, so now with those policies being adopted, we have completed our complete revision of our policy manual.
Hey. Woohoo.
Yay. Yes. And with that, we can now make a motion for you guys to, if you choose to do so, rescind the entire old policy manual.
This time we entertain a motion that we rescind the entire.
Yeah.
We don't want confusion out there. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Rogers, Jimmy Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Mark, for what all you've done with this.
Yeah, this has been a long journey, and
but it's so much easier now to make changes to the state. We get it from the state. We're always in compliance with what the state changes, what legislature changes immediately instead of months down the road.
Well, and the comment that I got from the attorney that was assigned to us, that I've worked with for these 18 or so months, was that he was very impressed with our process and the questions that we asked and the issues that were brought up. And he even told me that some of their policies have been affected by questions that came from Haywood County, and that sometimes their attorneys had to sit around the table and scratch their head because of the questions that were brought up here. So appreciate your input into
They
it.
actually adopted some of our, a couple of our policies, they actually adopted them with the state, like, well, we had them written previously, so.
Very good.
That was a nice deal.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I
Thank
know
you.
we still hadn't voted yet. Any more question or discussion? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the old policy's out. The new one's in.
Amen.
Congratulations. Now, we have addition to our agenda tonight. We have a report from our Building and Grounds Committee Chair, Mr. Walt Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I have 3 things from our building and grounds. We'd like to upgrade the Tuscola and Pisgah gyms. We'd like to install air conditioning. This consists of a pretty good sized job in both places. Price tag is going to be $686,700, and I'd like to make that in the form of a motion from the building and ground.
Okay. We have a motion from the Building and Grounds Committee Chair, Mr. Leatherwood, and do I hear a second to the motion?
Second.
Second, Mr. Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman, this is be putting air conditioning in the gym. We'll also be doing some work in the locker rooms, and also be replacing the hot water heaters. These hot water heaters been in the gym since they were built. So it's going to be a pretty good sized project.
Okay. Now, the next question that I have, but I know the answer to, is where are the monies coming from?
It's coming from the lottery money.
Okay. And we will still have a good balance in our lottery fund, is my understanding.
Yes.
Okay.
Close to $1 million.
Close to $1 million. Okay. Any questions or comments before we vote? I think these are long overdue.
Well, I was just at a volleyball game the other day, Tuscola and Pisgah, and it's a pretty heated contest, and I tell you what, it was unreal how hot it was in that gym on me a set time. I can imagine what it's like on those girls. And if I understand this right, this will be upgrading the heating system too, right? Correct. These heating units in these gyms have been obsolete for 15, 20 years. You can't buy parts for them. So, you know, this is it's a big bill, but it's something these kids need.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next project is up at Bethel Middle School. It's to build a handicap ramp from the cafeteria to the gym. It consists of a lot of concrete work, block work, and also putting it on and over the walkway. Price tag about $87,245. And like make this a form of a motion from the building grounds to do this.
Okay.
The reason that they have a kid right now that's in a wheelchair, and their parents have to take them to the cafeteria, and then when they get out, they got to bring them out and down the road and into the gym. That's the only way they can get them there. And up here, when we do this, it's going to save a lot of problem of getting a handicapped child from place to place up there.
Very good. Any, do I hear a second to the motion first of all?
Second.
Second, Ms. Milner, I believe. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The last thing I have is the county commissioners have like to buy about, it's 1.9 acres from us down on 209 where the food service center is. They're wanting to build a it's collection agency for the trash in that end of the county. And we had a meeting with David Francis today, and they did a lot of things, a lot of questions we had. One was, a question about the smell of the place and what rats and stuff like this could have, but he guarantees us that this will not happen. And it'll be into the contract if we want to do it. So I'd like to make a form of a motion from the Building and Grounds that we go into negotiations with the county to see just how interested they are in this piece of land.
Okay.
Second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion from Building and Grounds, Mr. Leatherwood, and a second from Mr. Rogers to enter into negotiations with the possible sale of some land at our Crabtree site for a possible new convenience center in that community. Okay. And we have a second. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor?
So this is negotiations, okay.
Yes.
So you haven't put a price out there?
No.
Tax valuation.
I know, but can't we voted to let them do a study, impact study? Do we have
It's
any?
not an impact study, but just a feasibility study, or just look at it. And they've come back with some preliminary drawings that was presented to the Building and Grounds Committee, and we can share those with all board members.
They did a study, and I'll pass this around, that's the only copy I've got, but you can see where they below the food service center is where they propose to do this. And since we met this morning, I made a trip down there, and I suggested to David that they go behind the building over there, so he's gonna go down tomorrow and look at it, see if it's something that they'd be willing to do. But if not, and this is the only place they can put it, then, if they're interested, then we'll talk to them.
Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We have 7 for and 1 against. Mr. Kirkpatrick, I believe, voted against the proposal. Okay. Motion carries. All right. Next, we have our, anything else from Building and Grounds first?
That's it.
All right. Because we had a lot going on there. Trying to get a lot of things accomplished there. That's good. Next on our agenda, we have our Finance Committee Chair, Mr. Jim Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have 3 items to bring before the board tonight. The first is the regular monthly financial reports. We have met and gone over the reports, and everything seemed to be in order. So at this time, I'd like to bring before the board a motion to approve the regular financial monthly reports.
We have a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Henson. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item I have for the board is the Pisgah Edition lottery payment. This is the annual payment that we have to make on the edition we made at Pisgah High School. So at this time, I hope everyone's had a chance to look at that. And so at this time, I would like to bring before the board to approve the payment on the Pisgah.
Okay, we have a motion from our chairman, Mr. Jim Francis of our Finance Committee, to approve the PHS Edition lottery payment.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rogers. Any question, Jimmy Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The last item I have is the 2016-17 budget resolution. We've been lucky enough to actually get the state budget, they hadn't put it off until November this year, so this is our revisions to our 16-17 budget.
Okay. We have a motion from the Finance Committee to approve the budget resolution. Is that correct? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Henson. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr.
Anything
Chairman.
else? Thank you from the Finance Committee. We appreciate the hard work of that committee, and thank you very much. Next, we have Dr. Ann Garrett for our personnel.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for your information, you have 21 separation from employment. You also have 12 employee status changes, and you have 9 leave of absences. For your approval, you have 1 separation from employment.
Entertain a motion that be approved as presented. So moved. Mr. Francis made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Milner. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, under employment, you have 25. I'm going to remove number 4. It was 26, and then we'll go with the 25 in lieu of the number 4.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved.
Mr. Rogers, Jimmy Rogers made a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Henson. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor?
This is 25, is that what?
Minus the number 4.
I take out number 4.
Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I ask for your approval for number 4.
Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to approve number 4.
So moved.
Ms. Shannon made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Leatherwood. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna call for division of board, or I couldn't hear. So if you would, those in favor, please raise your hand. 5, okay. Opposed? Motion carries 5-3. Thank you, board members, for voting again.
Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, employee status changes, you have 52. I will pull number 27.
This time we entertain a motion, those be approved as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Francis made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Leatherwood. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd ask that you approve number 27.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Rogers. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Bobby Rogers. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? I do have an announcement. As chair, I'd like to announce that Mr. Leatherwood has a personal relative interest in this individual and has asked to recuse himself from voting on this particular individual. So we will grant that wish. Any question or discussion on the motion on the floor after that? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7 and 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I ask for your approval for the leave of absence, which is 1.
Okay. At this time, I entertain a motion that we approve as presented. Mr. Bobby Rogers made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Jimmy Rogers. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I ask that you approve under contracted services 43. I'm going to pull out number 27.
Okay. This time I entertain a motion that they be approved as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Mr. Francis made the motion. I hear a second. Second, Mr. Bobby Rogers. Any questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I ask that you approve number 27.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we approve number 27.
So moved.
Is that Shannon?
I think Mr. Rogers made the motion, second by Mr. Leatherwood. That's you. Okay, any question or discussion on the motion on the floor? I'd like to announce as chair that Ms. Shandeville has asked to recuse herself from voting on this individual due to being a relative of her family. So we have granted that, and she will not be required to vote on this issue. Any other questions or discussion on the floor? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7 with 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I ask that you approve the 29 substitutes, the 5 employed coaches, the 1 non-employee coach, the 21 volunteer services, and the 1 contract renewal.
So moved.
Mr. Lewis made a motion to approve as presented. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Ms. Shandoval has seconded the motion. Any question or discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. That was a tough one there. Very good. There being no further business to come before the board, we stand adjourned.